One of the biggest questions surrounding My Hero 1's Justice 2 is what makes this game different from the original. I asked this on Twitter with no ill intent. I am still sincerely curious to see how they would answer that question, because there are a lot of differences to point out. But are those differences enough to justify a new game? That's the big question. I've seen a few system changes that perhaps require the new game from a technical standpoint, because they couldn't simply be patched in. But for us, the consumer, do those new systems justify a new purchase? Will the new characters, stages, and a new story mode be enough? That's what I'm aiming to find out in this video. And speaking of stories, our sponsor for today's video is very different, very unique, and sort of a challenge to you guys. No one's gonna ask you to spend money or buy stuff. In fact, you could even make some money with this platform. It's called Forge Fiction, and it's basically a platform where you can write books as a community. I've started my own book called Of Metal and Flesh. It's very anime, and I've written the first chapter. I hope everyone gives it a shot. The rest of the book is totally up to you guys. Anyone watching this can write that second chapter. The community will then read those second chapter submissions and vote on the best one. Once we have decided a winner, we move on to the third chapter, and so on until the book is finished. So if you want to participate, follow the link in the description below, and you can either write or just read and vote. Let's finish this book together, and if your chapter makes it into the final book, you will actually get a percentage of the sales. So it's not like you're working for free. It's pretty awesome, right? Check out Forge Fiction and let's write this book. Thank you for sponsoring this video. Over the course of this video, I'll be showing you gameplay from GameSpot, Papaberto, PS360 HD2, and Sitting Man of Legends. Links for their full gameplay videos in the description down below. But let's start with the obvious. My Hero 1's Justice 2 looks like a cash grab. I've seen many videos done on this topic. It's the same game again, and they're selling it for 60 bucks, which after dropping support on the first game, really leaves a bad taste in our mouth. You're telling me you stopped updating the first game so you could sell us a full sequel that is pretty much the same game with new stages and characters? Yeah, that's a total cash grab. Except not really. 1's Justice will have more characters and more stages compared to the first one, and for many this seems like a ripoff when the fighting system hasn't changed that much. But let's be objective and just look at the numbers for now. From 23 characters in the first game, DLC included, to almost double that amount with 40 characters coming at launch. It's a significant jump in the number of characters alone, and a lot of these characters haven't been revealed yet, but the number 40 has already been confirmed since we've seen the character select screen, and their website has also confirmed this number. If you bought the first My Hero 1's Justice game and were happy with your purchase, even if the game doesn't change drastically, you've still got a total of 17 new characters to try out. For players who stuck with My Hero 1's Justice and kept playing it online, that's a lot of new content to explore. And for people who didn't get the first one's Justice, then this being a copy of the first game isn't a problem at all. Now, could this have been DLC for the first game? That's an argument I also hear a lot. Well, it's actually way better that we're getting a sequel. Each DLC character in 1's Justice costs $2.99. That was an extra pack for $3.99 that brought some extra missions for that character, but let's just call the price for a single DLC character $2.99. If they sold you all 17 characters at $2.99 a piece, you would spend a total of $50.83 if you were getting every single character. Now, of course, since it would be DLC, you would have been able to choose which characters you wanted. You didn't have to spend that amount of money. But if they wanted a cash grab, they would have just kept releasing characters for the first game, because on DLC alone, the price already comes pretty close to the full game. Instead, they're bringing all the characters into the new game as a full package that comes not only with new characters, but with a lot of other features as well. All characters are getting updated. If I've spent the previous point proving this game isn't just a cash grab and justifying its price tag, then I'm gonna spend this next point voicing my disappointment at the development team. Every single character in the roster is getting an updated moveset. They're tweaking existing moves, giving characters some brand new stuff, which is exactly what the first game needed. If you want to stop making new characters because you are working on a sequel, that's understandable, but you cannot stop supporting the game with balance patches and bug fixes. After the Inasa DLC, the game stopped receiving any kinds of updates, and now we learned that they never stopped thinking about these characters. They were indeed updating them behind the scenes, working on their new game. This sets a very dangerous precedent, because now I have complete faith that this developer will make a good arena fighter, because the first game, in my opinion, was really awesome, but when it comes to updating it, to keeping it balanced, who's to say they won't simply drop it again? Don't get me wrong, having updated movesets for all the characters is great, and that's an added selling point for sure, but this is the point that we should have gotten for free in the first game, and we didn't because they completely dropped it. They dropped the first game so hard that if you go into the top ranked leaderboards on PS4, you've got 3 dudes who hacked the game to get the maximum number of points. That's how hard they dropped this game, to the point that the top players representing this game are hackers. and the developers don't seem to care. This is a massive red flag for sure. New systems. From a development standpoint, there might have simply been no other option but to make a brand new game. There have been multiple systems added to combat that patching them in would simply be impossible. Now, I'm not a game developer and I do not claim to know how the first game was built, but very often you see developers making sequels simply because the first game was not built ready to receive some of the updates that they came up with after launch. Something a lot of people noticed when watching gameplay, and so many others mentioned after actually playing the game at Comic-Con, is that the overall game feels much less floaty. Jumps don't hover forever, fighting in the air isn't as awkward, and this implies a massive change in the physics system that can maybe simply not be done by patching the first game. Also new are sidesteps, a mechanic that is very common in arena fighters but is brand new for One's Justice. Sidestepping will surely change this game, for better or worse we'll see in the future, but it is brand new. Sidestepping costs stamina, and that stamina gauge is the same one they use for blocking. If it runs out, you get a guard break, free combo. So I don't believe sidestepping will be overused, since its cost will be significant, but it will change the game for sure. The other changes seem pretty minor so far. Dash canceling now costs meter, which means it will take you longer to get the meter you want to unleash your supers, but the meter costs don't seem that insane, so overall it might not change the game that much. And now there are also stage transitions, which seem completely cosmetic. The ground breaks, you change to another stage, and in the example we saw, we went from a stage with no walls to another stage of the same size with no walls once again. So this stage transition is purely aesthetic. Triggering a transition does not give you any sort of combo extension, so it's really just for show. And finally, I believe there's also a new mechanic where if you counter an armored move with another armored move, you will actually break the armor, which would definitely be a welcome change since it would kill some of the overpowered armored moves, but to be confirmed. The footage we have isn't quite enough to definitely say that's the case. So yeah, from a developer standpoint, these system changes might have required a brand new game, and that's obviously not enough to justify it for us, the consumer, because it's not our fault that the first game wasn't built with this in mind. But it could be one of the reasons why we're getting a sequel instead of 17 DLC characters plus balance changes plus new stages and a new story mode. The stages in One's Justice were varied and changed the game in a significant way, depending on their size, the amount of walls they have, and whether or not you can win by ring out. But the stages selected for this game seem to serve another purpose, and that was story mode. All the fights that story mode needed got a stage created specifically for them. So I can't help but feel that stages and story mode are always connected. In One's Justice 2, we've already seen a few stages covering the final events of Season 3, with 2 stages taking place in the Heroes Provisional License exam, and with Overhaul being announced, we can assume story mode will pick up right where we left off after the All Might vs All for One fight, and go well into the events of Season 4, maybe even the complete Season 4. It's too early to tell how far it will go. But there will be a total of 25 stages, which is an upgrade from the previous game with 15 stages. Now, some of these stages are returning from the first game, and a lot of them are duplicates. They're just day and night versions of the same stage. But it's still a significant upgrade that indicates we'll have a story mode that is just as long, if not longer, than the previous game. But will it be better? The previous game's story mode was incredibly uninspired. Aside from the occasional cutscene, it was mostly a slideshow that connected fight after fight. There wasn't a lot of creativity and the cinematic moments were very few, so we hope to see a better story mode, but at the moment we just don't know how good that will be and if it will add any value to the price tag. So in conclusion, do the new characters, features, story mode justify a new game? Absolutely yes. If you want to disregard this game because you didn't like the first game, that is a valid reason. If you want to disregard it because the developers didn't support it post-launch and you have no faith that they will do it this time either, that's also a valid reason. But the argument that this is just the first game, that this is just a cash grab, is misinformed and short-sighted. The characters alone, if released as DLC, would amount to a total of $50. And on top of that, you add 10 new stages, a new story mode, new universal systems, and it easily justifies the $60 already. And that's not counting the characters that are being reworked, because honestly, that should have been free for the people who owned the first game. If it really was a cash grab, you'd still be getting DLC for One's Justice, but since it's a sequel, this is actually a big discount. And those are just the numbers talking. My opinion doesn't really factor into any of it. Now, I'll say that if you are excited for this game, don't pre-order it. Maybe the universal systems make the game worse, maybe the new stages suck. I mean, I'm not a fan of what I've seen so far. A lot of these new stages have objects that obscure the camera in some big ways, and that's super annoying because you know those objects are just there to be destroyed. So what I'll say is what I always say: wait for the final game, wait until we see the whole picture, and then you can make an informed decision. And for the naysayers, there are plenty of reasons to not get this game, but a cash grab is simply not one of them. So be better. Folks, we are writing a book together. Head over to Forge Fiction, read the first chapter, and if you want to contribute to the next chapters, we actually have a Discord chat going if you want to share ideas or simply discuss the book. And I'd love to know if you're thinking of getting this game when it comes out. A simple yes or no in the comments. I just want to know which way you're leaning. And as always, thank you very much for watching. My name is Globku, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye.